Welcome to the Super Six podcast. I'm your host, Kieran Stewart, and this is the point where I introduce everyone and it goes stone cold silent. I'd like to welcome to the stream Beryl Canning. I'd like to welcome Gareth Lewis, Steve Kay, and the champions of the Premier League, it's Kevin Parker.
Hello, nice to meet you, everybody.
He gives the royal wave now, just like that. No effort.
No,
Let them eat cake.
It's the 5 out of 6 on the Pep.
Oh, here he goes.
Farrell's sitting there, no round of applause whatsoever.
Nothing.
Sitting there like,
I'm
happy for Kevin. That's it. That's as far as my concerned.
All right. Yep. Manchester City are champions. If we didn't know that already, we knew it last week anyway, but it's been confirmed now they're champions. We're here to talk about that. We're here to talk about Arsenal's decline, it seems. Man United and Liverpool. What a timing to have you both on as well. Farrell, the last time we was on, Liverpool were nowhere near it, and now they've got a bank on Man United dropping points, but at least they're in the conversation.
no, they're still nowhere near it.
Steve.
He's got a point though, to be fair.
Far too early for that. A minute in.
Straight broadside, no missing.
Honestly, absolutely brutal. I mean, it's been such a while since I've been on, hasn't it? But there has been such a massive shift, isn't it? In terms of, I think we've won 22 out of 24 points.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's one of those. I think United and Newcastle both have to lose their 2 remaining games, and Newcastle have a far superior goal difference. It's just not going to happen, is it, lads? As much as I'd love to be able to say it would, I just don't think it will. So Europa League football it is, boys. Here we come.
Yeah, we all know what he's doing. He's doing that reverse psychology thing that we used to do as a kid. It's never going to happen. It's definitely going to happen.
I'm about to do exactly the same thing. It's not over yet. We haven't got into the Champions League yet.
I must say, Farrell's changed his mind more times than Daniel Levy this season.
Well,
it was just the twice, wasn't it? It was just the twice.
Was it twice?
I think it was. Yeah, I think yeah. it went rather bleak. I think after the World Cup break, didn't it?
Yeah, it went.
With the benefits of hindsight.
Yeah,
but we can't have a show today without talking about the champions. Kevin, from a Manchester City point of view, how has your season been in the Premier League?
Well, listen, I think I've been reasonably optimistic for a few weeks now, and it's not just really been on the back of supposedly, and I don't agree with that, by the way, but supposedly Arsenal bottling it. It's been on the back of, ironically, since the Premier League laid those 115 charges at City's door, City have won 43 out of 45 Premier League points.
Wow.
It's ludicrous.
It's just incredible. And I do remember watching Gary Neville on Sky Sports. I think it was January when he said he fancied City to win the league because he thought City would go on one of those long runs that they can do. But back in January, I wouldn't have thought that was going to happen because we've played reasonably well this season, but some games have been a little bit indifferent. And there was a point, certainly in January, around the time that we probably lost to Spurs, there was nothing in the team that suggested me that we could go on a run of winning 43 out of 45 points. But something happened. I don't know. Well, I say something happened. The genius that is Pep Guardiola happened. Listen, he got rid of Cancelo, who apparently was, a bad egg in the camp. I think the rest of the players in and around the squad were uncomfortable with him being there. They got rid of him.
Was it really that deep with the rest of the players in the squad? Because from an outsider point of view, it kind of came out of nowhere, and then you didn't really hear too much about what the actual problem was.
Listen, I think the problem was he didn't like not playing. which is sort of understandable for any footballer. You know, footballers want to play football, don't they? But the ironic thing is, at the time that he was unsettled, and he had just slightly lost his place in the team, but at the time that he was unsettled, he'd actually played more Premier League games than any other player this season. I mean, Pep does a rotation thing, but he'd actually played more games. But he became very sulky, apparently, you know, and in and around the training ground that, you know, he made it known that he wanted to play. I think even he has admitted that when he's not playing, he's not a nice person to be around. But I do believe that had a negative impact on the rest of the squad. And there is talk that, you know, Bayern Munich won't sign him. They certainly won't be paying up 70 million euros, which I think is the price that is wanted. But I can guarantee you something else. There is no way that he's coming back to Manchester City. Absolutely no chance. They would give him away rather than allow him to come back. But I think Pep spotted that. I mean, and he is a fantastic footballer, Cancelo. You can't deny that. He's a fantastic. But in and around the club, there was something not right, and he was one of the things. And Pep also turned, you know, John Stones into Franz Beckenbauer for the last 3 months of the season. I think some of the things he's done with some. We haven't played, apart from Kyle Walker, but we haven't played with a natural left back or right back for a lot of our games this season. He's been playing 4 centre halves. He's been playing Ake, Diaz,
Akanji.
Stones, Akanji, Laporte. Those 4 have been playing across the back 4 positions, drifting into midfield, you know. Listen, he is just a G. And we are not playing the football that winning the league this season that we played to win the league last season or played to win the league the season before. He just changes it, Pep. And actually, Steve asked me today, sent me a message about which players are we looking for. And it depends on what's happening with Bernardo and Gundogan and you know, Cancelo to a certain extent. But I also said to Steve, Pep will just want to change it for next season anyhow. He will want to freshen something up. There'll be a little bit like last season when, you know, Jesus and Sterling went. There will be big name squad players who might disappear from that squad this season in the close season because Pep will just want to shake it up a little bit. He will not want it to be stale. He will want it to something fresh. He will already, hopefully not for the Champions League, he'll already have some fresh ideas of what he wants to do with the team and the squad for next season. It has just been brilliant. I do genuinely feel sorry for Steve and, you know, as an Arsenal fan and yourself, because
thanks, Kev.
I do not honestly think it's about you throwing this title away. I think it's about they just ended up facing an absolutely magnificent football team in Manchester City because of Pep Guardiola. That performance against Real Madrid, and I've had a season ticket for 50 years this season. That first half against Real Madrid is the best performance I've ever seen in my life. It was unbelievable.
I think that game against Arsenal was the tee up for that run you've had as well. Especially the last handful of games has been absolutely outstanding. Garth, we spoke about this before. I think it was at the start of the season about shortening that gap on Man City. How much further do you think it's got? Do you think it's got wider? How do you plug the gap?
You don't. Listen, all the time that Man City can buy all of the best players in the world and have a squad of 25 world-class
No,
players.
hold on. I've got to come in there. That's first of all, come on, let's be fair about this. You know, nobody spends more money on players than Manchester United. This isn't about spending money on players. 2, our squad is actually only 19 players. Pep doesn't like a big squad. He doesn't have
19 of the world's best players. 19 of any one of your players walks into any other football team in the world. any
Because
other
of
team.
what?
So when you've got that embarrassment of riches, I'm not
No,
taking
no,
anything
no.
away from Man City.
Because
When you've
of
got that
what?
embarrassment of riches, it is definitely easier, harder, for anyone else to catch up with it.
Because of
100%.
what?
Man United spent money on poor players. I'll give you that.
Absolutely, it's not about spending money. It's about the coach.
Of course it is.
It is about Pep
No.
Guardiola. It's about
It isn't about Pep.
It is.
How can it just be about Pep? How can it just be about Pep?
Because he's the best coach in
Pep has never built a side. Someone said this the other day.
Oh.
He's always walked into teams that have got the best players in the world and then spends even more money on the best players in the world.
You do not know your football history. Okay, when Pep took over Barcelona, they had
Messi.
No. They had to qualify.
Who did he have up front? Neymar, Messi.
No, Neymar. When Pep took over,
Whichever ones he had up there. Who did he have up there at the time? That's what I'm asking. I forget. He definitely had Messi.
Ibrahimovic, and he got rid of him.
Sorry, Ibrahimovic. I apologise. One of the greatest strikers of all time.
The point I'm making here is that when Pep took over that team, they had to qualify for the Champions League. They finished third in the Spanish league, 18 points behind Real Madrid. And this was his first coaching job. That season, he won 6 trophies. Now, that was because of the team that he built and the team that he coached at B level at Barcelona.
So you're saying in one season, he built a whole team.
That was not about inheriting football teams. When he took over Manchester City, the average age of the player was 31. In the first season, they didn't win anything. So he had to coach them. It took them a full season for him to get into their brains the way
when he bought all the players he needed.
Listen, I appreciate that you're a Manchester United fan and you've not won the Premier League for 10 years, so you're very, very jealous and envious. At least where credit is due.
Yeah, look.
You know what? Let me finish my point. I would have given credit.
Go on, finish your point.
25 seconds into my point, I don't think it's fair to say give credit where credit's due. I was going to say he's a great manager, but you can't tell me he's the greatest manager of all time and he built amazing teams. Just like Mourinho, he hasn't. He's had all of the money and finances available. You've got 115 charges against
Carry on. Because I want to go to Farrell after.
I'm done with it. I'm done. Yeah.
Farrell, I need to hear your point of view on this because you've been locked in horns with Manchester City for the last 5 years, frustratingly, only winning 1 Premier League trophy. What's your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I know. I have a few opinions on this. I think. The thing we have to sort of start off with saying is obviously Pep Guardiola is one of the greatest managers of all time. We cannot deny that the quality of football City have played over the last 5 years or so has been absolutely phenomenal. Particularly bearing in mind the Madrid game. This is a team that made Liverpool look silly even after going 2 goals behind at Anfield. Beat one of the best Madrid teams of all time. Obviously, Manchester City are a very, very, very good football side, coached by an unbelievable manager. It's testament that Klopp has decided to use an inverted fullback because Guardiola started using inverted centre-backs. I think that's the best compliment I can possibly pay Guardiola and City. However, we cannot still say the money does not make a difference at all. It's factual that I think, I don't have the absolute latest numbers, but as of February 2022, I think United only spent 80 million more than Manchester City. Money does make a difference. Would Guardiola still have won the trophies on a more level playing field with Liverpool's finances? Yeah, I think he would. Absolutely. I think, the quality of the manager there, astute signings, Pep would have still won trophies. No problem with that at all. But equally, I think we do have to. I'm a bit sickened, to be honest, by how it's been generally looked at. You look at even sort of Jamie Carragher sort of saying, City he released a tweet saying City are a state-run club, but, don't believe the level of results we post about Guardiola. Both statements are absolutely true. But, we're living in a Premier League era where, once the 115 breaches, we get alleged breaches, I should say, once the verdict comes out in a few years, we're talking about potentially this one of the greatest sides in the Premier League history, either being viewed as, what they are, brilliant, or a gang of cheats. This is the difference we're talking about. This is an absolutely mad situation that we're here in what is adjudged to be the greatest league competition on earth. I mean, you look at sort of the charges that are here. You know, we're talking about failing to provide accurate financial info with regard to sponsorship revenue, breaching Premier League rules on profit and sustainability from between 2015 to 2018, lack of compliance with UEFA over financial fair play relegation, and unwillingness to incorporate with investigations. I mean, let's be honest, if anyone's unwilling to incorporate an investigation, it doesn't exactly paint a picture of an innocent party, does it? You know, in the mean, it's just ridiculous. And you look at sort of the raw numbers on commercial revenue. 10 years to the end of 2020, City 1.7 billion. Come on, you know, it's the two things can be true. Guardiola can be a brilliant manager, and City, factually, you cannot have more revenue. Kevin, you can't have more revenue than Liverpool, Chelsea, and Arsenal on average. It's bonkers. It's bonkers.
And the Court of Arbitration in Sport found City not guilty. So if you're going to talk about facts, let's have the true facts here. And
just let me speak after as well before you move on, because
charges do not mean that you're guilty, by the way.
No, absolutely, I agree.
Yeah, exactly.
But Kevin, there's 150. I absolutely, completely agree. Of course, there's a possibility this turns out, they review it and go, actually, you know what, City have acted completely legally. At which point, I'm sure I will be amongst the rest of the fans and saying, you know, fair enough. Absolutely, I'll take back any. But again, we have to deal. These are still allegations. We can't ignore them. You know, if we look at the Olympics and the sprinter is accused of doping to get a gold medal, we're not just going to look at them and say they're a brilliant athlete. If there's allegations of doping, we're going to say this needs to be investigated, and it is being investigated. The fact City are getting so touchy about it as well, to the point where, you know, we're talking about the barristers' involvement, Murray, Rose, and KC, because, you know, saying they don't want him involved in the case because he's an Arsenal fan. You know, calling Klopp xenophobic because he dared to suggest that no one else can compete with Newcastle, PSG, and Manchester City. Those, like, what? You know, if you're confident with yourself that you have not breached regulations, why are you going around calling, you know, another manager xenophobic? Is beyond me. Like, do you know what I mean?
The point is here, we've had this vlog now for 8 weeks, 10 weeks, however long it is, and we've talked about who's going to win the Premier League, whether it's going to be Arsenal or whether it's going to be City. And during none of those conversations, during none of them have we talked about financial fair play, have we talked about 115 charges, have we talked about who spent the most money. Now all of a sudden, that City have overtaken Arsenal and won the Premier League. Now you want to start throwing those charges in. Why didn't you talk about them when we were second in the league, or when we were third, or when Arsenal were 8 points clear? Why all of a sudden do you now want to tarnish the fact that we've won the Premier League, to detract from what is an absolutely fantastic achievement? It's cheap. It is cheap. At least for one episode, you could give us the benefit of the doubt and say,
yes, Kev, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to do that for you. Don't worry. Don't worry, I'll be doing that for you anyway.
What we have to remember, Kevin, though, is there's 6 people here. There's going to be a broad range of opinions. Now, if you ask me, I spoke my mind on it last week, and I think that I've got my opinion on it, and I've not spoken about it once in 8 weeks. I've not spoken about it today. Everyone's entitled to an opinion. Everyone's going to have their say. Like, it's not something I'm pinpointing. I wouldn't point at the fact that Man City won the league because of their finances. That's not something I point out. So, Nathan.
Sorry, can I just point out, the question was, can Man City catch up with Man City? It was nothing to do about Man City's titles or anything. It was about Man United's chances of getting close to Man City. That's where I was coming from. You know, I'm not detracting from their title. I'm not detracting from the football.
What's that got to do with the 115 charges?
Well, that came later. My initial point was, like, it's hard to catch up with Man City when you've got such a great team. When you can just throw away a João Cancelo.
To be fair.
All right, cool. All right, let me just say my piece on it all then. I think City have done an amazing job. From the day Pep came in, I remember he inherited a not the best side. He had Sagna playing left back, and I remember he was trying to get him to play his type of football, and he couldn't do it, and he knew he needed to change it. To be honest, they've spent less than Man United since he came in overall, all them years. The only difference is he was allowed to stay there and buy players, and then that player doesn't work out, and then buy a player straight away again. For example, the goalkeeper situation. I don't think that's the part where obviously you have the money to be able to spend in a much shorter space of time to get your team to where you want it to be. I think that's the only difference that City have had over the other teams, where we've had to maybe buy a few players 1 year, then wait till the next year and then buy a few players. You lot was able to buy a bit more, I guess, more in, you wouldn't normally be able to buy a keeper on a lot and then go, right, you're not doing well. Let's get another keeper straight away. That's the difference. But again, it's all Pep being the way he is. He's a great manager and he's enforced the way he wants to play on every player that's come in, and he's bought correctly. He knows what to do. He knows when to change the players and get them out and bring in fresh players. He's done it perfectly. And we just got to sit there in awe of what he's done. Okay, it's not as, I wouldn't say it's as hard a job that he done that Sir Alex done. I think Sir Alex inherited a side that wasn't any good and brought them up a lot higher and stood there. I think you can give Sir Alex a bit more of props for what he did, from taking them from a lower point without the money to a higher point, then getting the money and then using that money to continue it. But anyway, taking nothing away from City, they've done an amazing job. They're playing some crazy football that I've never seen before either, and they deserve it. And simple as that. I don't think any teams are going to catch them for now. As long as Pep's there and he keeps finding the great players and players that we don't see, that's going to continue to happen. Simple as that. Hats off to City. They are bloody rivals. They keep winning, and they're probably going to do us over in the FA Cup final as well. But listen, hats off to them where it's due. They're top. Simple as that.
Yeah. Steve?
Yeah. Follow that lot. Look, I mean, I'm not someone who really looks into the money side. Yes, it obviously makes a difference. But for me, I mean, you could say, did Liverpool win the title when they bought Alisson and Van Dijk? And they paid 70, 80 millions for them? Manchester United under Ferguson, they always went and got the best player. Isn't it always been that way regarding money? I think at the end of the day...
Until Chelsea get involved.
Yeah, they're cheating. They're cheating.
But as a rule,
it's not worked out for them. That's all.
As a rule, the best teams have always gone and got the best players, and I think that's all that Manchester City have done. And to be fair to Man City, even when you get those best players, you've still got to blend them as a team and coach them during the week to become a champions time, a title winning side to go and win it. So for me, the money is a little bit, yes, it makes a difference, but unless you've got a great coach and, you're able to put that team together on the pitch, then it's a meaningless exercise anyway. I've seen, like you just said, with Chelsea, it's very easy to go and spend a load of money. I mean, Chelsea are worse than Man City, haven't they? I mean,
they are.
I mean, we're talking, I'd rather talk about, I'm not someone who goes into the money and that side. I don't know too much about the side of it. But as I said, I think the best clubs have always had the most money and gone and bet the best players. And those clubs have gone and won the league. Unless you're a Leicester, which is a freak. So I don't really think Manchester City have done anything different from what any club's done down the line. It's just because we're in a sort of an era now where, players have got these ridiculous prices. Clubs are spending ridiculous amount of money. But I see every club doing that, just not.
What do Arsenal have to do?
Just not to do Man City. But I just think Man City have been like everyone's really said. I just think they're unbelievable. I think they've been unstoppable. I think they've got an incredible coach who, like Kevin said, I feel is an absolute genius. At the beginning of the season, I was like, could have another team win the title there? Because I looked at their team. Can he put that together? What's the Kanji like? What's he going to do with Grealish this year? Is Ireland going to settle in? What's going to happen? They've only got a small squad. Is this all going to fit into one? And it does, doesn't it? Because Pep's a genius and probably one of the best managers ever that there ever's going to be. And it doesn't seem to matter whether he buys someone at 15 million or 100 million. he still gets the best out of that player, no matter what they spend. So it's like, even if they spent 600 million, if they spent 600 on the following year, they spent 300. I still think you'd get the best out of that player for him to probably go and win the league again.
What do Arsenal have to do to shorten that gap?
They have to, they have to go and obviously it helps to spend some money, just like all the other top teams do. You've got to spend. Manchester United are the same. They're going to have to spend. We're going to have to.
Steve, can I just jump in here? You just said that the money doesn't matter. Like all the teams do it, so it's got to be more than spending. Surely that we need to do.
No. It's like obviously.
But I don't just mean spending. I mean, you can go into specifics. You can say Arsenal need to bring in this, and this. You don't have to just say you have to spend. Like go into specifics. If you say like right now, Liverpool linked with Ryan Gravenberch, and whoever Farrell could go, all right, if we bring in Gravenberch, we bring in Mason Mount, Liverpool will definitely shorten that gap. I'm not, you don't have to specifically talk about the long and shorts of the money. Go into specific players. You've got enough ball knowledge.
It's just everyone was talking about the money, so I just thought to put my bit in.
You know what I think they have to do?
But if you're looking about Arsenal, what they need, I'm talking
about United and Arsenal. What they both have to do, which is what Liverpool and City have done, is first of all stick by the manager. You have to give him time.
They'll do that.
Yeah.
Nathan mentioned Alex Ferguson there. I mean, Alex Ferguson. It took him 5 years, I think, to win his first trophy at Manchester United.
86 to 91.
It took him 13 years to win. 13 years before he won the Champions League at Manchester United.
Yeah.
Now, Manchester United, I think, have got, I'm not just saying this, I've said this before, I think they've got a very, very good coach with them now. They have got a very, very good coach with them. But they just have to stick with it, because if you look at the amount of money that United have probably spent just on sacking coaches, you couldn't sign them. You couldn't sign away with that. There's nobody worse at that. There's nobody worse at that, by the way, than Chelsea. But you do have to have a little bit of faith, and I do think that Ten Hag is the right choice for Manchester United.
Yeah. There's no way them clubs are sacking their managers. Not in a million years. It's not even an issue. Liverpool ain't sacking Klopp. Arsenal are not sacking Arteta.
No, that's the point I'm making.
No. If we lose Ten Hag, I don't know where. If Ten Hag gets sacked, I don't know where we go after that. There's no
Who comes into them clubs? Who comes into them clubs if those three managers go? There's nobody. I don't care.
There ain't no one.
I don't care. You can't get one. Tottenham are trying to get a manager at the moment. But the best they can get is a Potter or Rodgers or an Arne Slot and a Nagelsmann who's still wet behind the ears. And so even if like one of the board or the board members was thinking we've got to get one of these people out at Liverpool, Arsenal, or Man United, there's no way they're going. But it's an irrelevant question because they're not going anywhere.
United have done that recently. What's his name won the FA Cup and they sacked him the following day. Mourinho won 2 trophies in the season and then they sacked him the following season.
Yeah,
that was different. He broke down.
I wanted that.
But if you go back,
Luke and Howe, I was disgusted by that. What we did to him.
We told him
like an hour after the win, didn't we? After we won the FA Cup, we told him then it's disgusting, disgraceful.
Goff, with the way that Man United have entered the season, has there been any disgruntled fans that are talking about next season if we don't do this?
Oh yeah,
we need to look elsewhere because. That seems like the kind of what it's like at the moment in the fan bases. Like they're not done enough this season to say off with his head, but they're talking about next season. If Arsenal don't put in a serious challenge and win a cup, Arteta needs to go. If Ten Hag doesn't push Man City like Arsenal did, then he needs to go. Like, is there any sort of noises that on that?
There ain't much you can win, is there? Just beginning.
There's elements of that out there. Of course, the stat going around is that Ten Hag's lost more Premier League games than Solskjaer did this season. And like exactly. Who cares? Like, it's still. I don't know what to say about these fans. I don't want to do air quotations. They obviously are fans, but any Man United fan says now who's got any doubt that there's a better manager for us right now that we can get than Ten Hag, you're living in fantasy land, lads, girls. You're living in a dream world. There's no one.
It's the same with Liverpool as well, isn't it?
Yeah, madness. Yeah.
Don't you think? Like, you can't change Klopp and think that you're gonna get better than him. You need to get the money out to give him the money to go and get the players to go and compete again. I think
that's the thing. I think the way most, I'm certainly the way I look at it, I think the way most Liverpool fans look at it is, I think, you can't look at the season and say Klopp hasn't made mistakes. I think personally he's made a lot of mistakes this season, but we're still talking about, the best manager we have had. I mean, he's miles ahead of Rodgers, miles ahead of Benitez. I love Rafa Benitez, but miles ahead. Easily the best manager we've had in decades. What he's been able to do on the budget he's had and the quality of football he's played. It's telling, and I think obviously City have been absolutely phenomenal. But I think in a certain sense, I wonder if Guardiola might actually look at Liverpool and think it actually serves City better for Liverpool to be playing at the kind of level where City were pipping Liverpool to titles by points, because I think. And it's a two-way relationship, because I think when Liverpool are really good, I think City are already phenomenal, but I think City are even better when Liverpool are pushing them, and likewise Liverpool are a lot better when City are pushing them. So I do, and if we're in that sort of situation again, Liverpool buy well this summer, Klopp coaches them, he's obviously a brilliant coach, and Liverpool sort of back around the sort of top of the table again. I think you'll see City being even wildly better this year, and I think it'll just have that knock-on effect.
You trying to give me nightmares, Farrell? You trying to give me nightmares? It's half past 8 at night, mate. It's half past 8 at night. I've got bedtime sleep.
I'll tell you what. I just want to quickly say, just the same on Kevin said earlier. I mean, it will be interesting. We're saying Man City are going to get stronger and stronger next year, but there's not really any Gundogan's out there at the moment, is there? There's not really any Bernardo Silvas out there at the moment. Mahrez is coming, what is he, 31, 32 now? He may need replacing soon. So there's a big job out there for Pep.
Yeah. The worrying thing is, Steve, Man City flash a bit of fire, and Saka's the one on the right wing. That's the problem. That's our worry. Yeah. That's our worry. We're good. We're the training ground, the development, and then Man City coming and nipping from us. That's why we need to not be out of cup competitions and while going for the Premier League, not concentrate on one thing.
Yeah, and we need a bigger squad for that, don't we? We need a bigger squad. We need a bigger squad for that. Pep could probably go to Atkinson Stanley and buy someone for 200 grand and making him to a world star in a year. That's probably the way we got
Alaves and the geezer from Anderlecht to do that too. Farrell, with the names that are kind of flying about with Liverpool at the moment, it does seem like there's some high quality players that will still go to Liverpool, even if they don't get Champions League. Do you think with the names that are going about, that will be enough to sort of bridge that gap so you can get back, not necessarily fighting for the league, but definitely easily getting to the top four and then building on that for the following season?
Oh yeah, no, top four, yeah, no problem. If we get the targets, we're looking at, obviously Alexis McAllister is reportedly inching closer to, signing a contract. So hopefully that goes over. I mean, I think he's phenomenal. Plays the 10, plays the 8, plays the 6. He's had a ringing endorsement from Adam Lallana, who used to play for Liverpool. So we know what Liverpool are like with their character references. Absolutely. I think bridging, I don't want to be arrogant about it, but obviously Liverpool at their best, easily a top four side, even with the likes of, Newcastle have improved, Manchester United have improved. I think Liverpool at their absolute best. I think, I don't want to be disparaging to Manchester United, but it's too disparaging. But obviously, I think a little bit, but I think top four. Whether closing the gap to City, I'm less confident about in the space of a year, because obviously, given the work we have to do in terms of recruiting for the midfield, and you need these players to bed in. So I don't think we'll be. I mean, we could surprise ourselves, of course, this happens, but I don't think we'll be challenging City to the same standard for the title next season. But I think top four, I'm 90 back in that.
Farrell, can I ask you something? Farrell, can I just ask you something? I mean, your front three at the moment, who I'm a big fan of. Yeah, at the moment you've got Salah. At the moment you've got Nunez, and you've got Gakpo, and you've got Diaz. Right, as good as they are, and as big as I'm a fan of them, can you really see those players challenging City in the next year or two with that front line? Do you think you need more up there?
More up there?
Yeah.
Oof, that's a big question. I mean, you've got one of the best sort of right wingers in world football, in Mohamed Salah, who, by the way, in terms of the numbers, he's still registering. I think he's
getting on a bit, isn't he?
Breached. Yeah, but you look at. Yeah, but come on. I think
they just players that the biggest contract they've ever given up.
I think he's still players that are that I don't know, players that are that good. It's less about speed and ability comes into it more. I think Darwin Núñez, I'll give you, is massively, massively raw. There's a player that needs coaching. I think Klopp's said very recently he still doesn't speak the language, which I know there's plenty of journalists out there that say it doesn't make a difference, but for me that would make a difference. I don't know. I think that forward line has even sort of, I think Klopp's favoured Salah, Gakpo, and Luis Diaz of late, and Gakpo's shown plenty of signs of being this weird kind of Bobby Firmino, Wijnaldum morph. He's phenomenal. I guarantee you we'll be talking about him a lot next season unless he gets a horrific injury or something. I'm very excited. I mean, we're talking like, if you think Liverpool's current best three is Mohamed Salah, Luis Diaz, and Cody Gakpo.
Like I said, they're good.
Do you know what I mean? Yeah, no, absolutely. No, but do you know what I mean? I think, and you've got Darwin Núñez who, coached the right way. I think, you also got to bear in mind, players like, especially Núñez, you're coming into a team that, Liverpool were playing crap for much of the season. And you think there's a huge difference. If you look at Diaz when he came into the side, halfway through the season in the January window, the prior season, Liverpool were going for a quadruple, completely supercharged our push towards the end of the campaign. Coming into a team that's doing that well and coming into a team where, we're not pressing the same way we are, we're lacking legs in midfield. There are problems everywhere you can possibly, they're everywhere. It makes a huge difference. I think I'm more confident about what players like Núñez can do. Jota, we can already sing his players. We know what he's capable of. Diaz, fantastic. Salah, fantastic. Gakpo is quickly becoming a fan favourite for plenty of reasons. I'm confident. In terms of challenge, again, I maintain this next season. I do not expect Liverpool to challenge City for the title. Top four, yes. I think another season beyond that.
Yeah. I think I wouldn't have said that Liverpool's front line is the issue. I definitely said their midfield, which is why they're leaking goals, because the midfield they used to have, which was just so resilient, is they're a bit more open now, which is sort of exposing the defence. And probably at a time when Virgil van Dijk is probably transitioning to a different type of defender, is when you probably need your players around you to sort of support, and they ain't been that. He's been sort of left open. That's the
problem as well, isn't it, Kieran? Because I think if it was a defensive or a front line sort of issue, that would be easier to solve comparatively. But because of the ways that Liverpool's midfield play, we know we get our creativity from our fullbacks, but it's the industry in midfield that keeps everything sort of ticking over. And missing that for much of the season, obviously the inverted fullback change with Trent made a huge difference. Players like Curtis Jones have come away from the fringes, and he looks phenomenal on the left midfield. Again, whether he can maintain that and avoid injury, I know he's on a tailored training program that seems to be helping with that, because he's had a lot of stress fracture issues. But no, it's promising. But again, as you say, it's the midfield, isn't it? It's such a big issue, and Liverpool need to get it spot on this summer.
And one of your midfielders that left, James Milner, a legend of the team, and also Manchester City, Kevin, and Bobby Firmino as well. That was a heart-wrenching goodbye yesterday.
Absolutely gutting, mate. Absolutely. It was awful. I mean, he stayed behind in the stadium for like about 3 hours or so, signing everyone's autographs. Yeah, he was there. Refused to leave the pitch. It was, but you can, the man was in tears, but obviously he's been such an integral figure in this Liverpool team. He's the man that was bizarrely overlooked by Brendan Rodgers, but I think that's a damning indictment, obviously, of Brendan Rodgers himself. And he made. I mean, I'm not saying anything groundbreaking, but obviously he made the whole team tick. I think without Bobby Firmino, I don't think Klopp's regime is as successful as it has been. Phenomenal. And again, James Milner. Again, I really do not want to overlook that man. I know plenty of people mock him online. I think he's a joke of a footballer, but everyone who's worked with him says he's a phenomenal footballer, a phenomenal professional, phenomenal human being. We've been incredibly lucky to have him. He's been an absolute model professional, and it's telling that he's racked up more sub appearances than even some of the players that we thought would be big. Like I think he's got more sub appearances than Naby Keita has starting appearance, which tells you all you need to know. Really, I'm genuinely. I know he's 37, but I'm genuinely gutted he's not going to be at the club. I'm sure Kevin will speak highly of him as well.
Any player that goes 37 this long, top of the league, is quality bowler. Quality bowler. There's no question about it.
I know City fans were very, very disappointed when he. And by the way, I do believe footballers are allowed to, but I think City supporters were disappointed when he ran his contract down so that he could move to a different club. It turned out to be Liverpool. They were disappointed because he was great for us. He was absolutely fun, a great utility player. But I think the problem with City was he wanted to play in midfield, and we played him at left. We've had a problem at left back for 40 years, I think. We still can't play. Since Willie Donachie left, we've still not been able but I think, strangely enough, I think he signed for Liverpool under Rodgers because Rodgers promised to play him in midfield, and then not long after that, Rodgers got kicked out, and he ended up playing at left back again. But he's been a really great professional. I mean, the word is he's going to go to Brighton. Is that true? I mean,
oh really?
I think that's looking a done deal.
True, yeah.
Wow.
Go to another Premier League club, that's fantastic. It just shows you how much esteem that he's held. As an outsider, though, why are Liverpool letting Firmino go?
He'd play any top four. I was just thinking to myself, I'd have him on the bench at Arsenal. I'm sure Man United would have him on the bench at Manchester United. I still think he could do a job.
You mean?
I mean, for Liverpool.
We ain't got nothing on there. Come on, mate. I'll definitely play Weghorst over him. Are you mad, son? Come on,
I mean, from Liverpool's point of view, I think Klopp wanted to keep him longer at the club. Klopp absolutely adores Bobby. Klopp adores Bobby Firmino more than any other player. I'll tell you that right now. But I think the player himself sort of
more than Adam Lallana.
Well, absolutely more. I mean, not massively more than Adam Lallana, but you know what I mean. I think of all the players that Klopp has coached at Liverpool, I think Bobby Firmino, absolutely. But I think the player himself sort of reached an internal understanding where he felt it was the right time to go. I think obviously his minutes have gone down. His impact. I mean, obviously, I say about his impact. He came on in our last game and got the equaliser. I think I'd keep him for another year. Quite frankly, I think he's still a superb option to have off the bench, even if he's not starting games. But I think it's the right decision for him and to a certain extent us. In that he protects his Liverpool legacy. He goes off. Hopefully, I'll be so sad to see him at another Premier League club. But I think he's made the right decision. I'm just disappointed we're not going to see him at the club anymore.
But you said it yourself, you'll give me another year. And I think as a footballer, when you're at this age now, it's not the year running contracts that you want. You want a bit more security. You want a two-year contract. And if someone's willing to offer you a 3-year, it's a 3-year contract. So,
Talk of Saudi Arabia, isn't it?
You can see why he's doing it. You can definitely see why he's doing it. Now on to you, Steve. Arsenal, the great bottlers, eh? The great pretenders. It was clear they didn't have enough.
Is that the time?
No. It's clear they didn't have enough squad-wise. Injuries. As soon as you get an injury, a drop in form. What is it that Arsenal needs to do? How far are they off? Can they put in another challenge? Is top 4 out the question? Many people have spoken about this is the Arsenal's best chance. Do you see that as the case? No.
I think obviously we dropped off, and we know we can pick out problems. We can go through them with a fine tooth comb, if you like. But at the end of the day, I think to answer your question, I think looking at players that we're linked with and for next season, and the players that we've already got, and the way we've played this season, and the manager we got, I think you could honestly say if you're going to get someone who's going to challenge for the title with Manchester City next season, it would be us. We still don't know what Man United and Newcastle and Liverpool are going to be doing in the tryouts to win. There's a bit of a closed book at the moment, but Arsenal, we're hearing about Casado, we're hearing about Declan Rice, we're hearing about Mason Mount, we're hearing about Gundogan, all solid, players that Arsenal are being linked with and apparently have had contact with. So there's Arsenal are in the right place. Don't worry about that. And we've got a fantastic manager. We've got a young team, and we just dropped off at moments during the season, especially as it got to the back end. We've been up against the juggernaut, and I generally think there was a point where just Arsenal just threw up the flag, and I think all season Arsenal players have believed that they're the best team in the league, and most people have said up to a certain point that they was. I think when they've come up against Manchester City, I honestly think, right, that was the time when they come off that pitch and thought, we're not the best team in the league. Man City are in a different planet to us. And I think that got in their heads. And then after that, we started going on a bad run. It wasn't a total drop-off, because we went to Liverpool as well. When we played Liverpool, we played very well against Liverpool. It was just that, there was a stupid mistake in that game that led to a draw. We played very well against Southampton. You can't say we bottled it against Southampton, because they rolled up their sleeve and come back and got a draw. So you can't say that's a bottle. West Ham, we was the best team. We went out flying, went up 2-0 up. Again, stupid mistakes, individual mistakes. Went to Newcastle, a game we was all supposed to lose. Our young players. But in between that, there was mistakes. So, and that was it really. But I just think Man City just kept winning and winning and winning. They're getting that odd goal. And I just think in their players' heads, no matter what they did, Man City was matching it. And it just got to a point in the end where they just thought, we've gone to Newcastle. We've just literally played probably one of the best away performances of the season. But they're still there. And I think by the time they got to like the Brighton game, and it was up against Everton, and they went to Everton and they won, I think they just come out and thought, look, we're not the best team, and no matter what we do, I'm not saying that's right. It's definitely not the right mentality to have, but they're young. It got to their heads, but they'll learn from that and they'll come back next season. And that's why it ain't a bottle. And that's why it ain't a crumble.
Steve, mate, everything you've just said is the classic definition of a bottle, and I've been defending.
No. A crumble and a bottle.
The way you just explained it,
a crumble and a bottle. A crumble and a bottle is when you disintegrate, right? Arsenal.
Steve, you just said the players didn't have the mentality to do it. That's a bottle. That's a bottle. And I've been defending Arsenal.
If you go and look at the definition of crumble, it means disintegrate.
I said bottle job. I said bottle job. The way you described it,
the same thing.
The way you described it is we went here and we went here. Let me finish it. We went here. And we went here, we didn't think we could win. Then we went here, and Man City were doing so well, it just got to their heads, and they couldn't do it. And the way you described, that's a bottle job, mate.
It got to a point where in their heads,
that's a bottle job. It's a bottle job.
Steve is in denial. I've been speaking to him a whole week.
So I don't agree with that. No.
I don't.
36 games of a season, they bottled it. You're saying that for 2 games, you're going to label Arsenal as bottling it and crumbled it. No. They didn't bottle it. They didn't bottle it against West Ham. They didn't bottle it against Liverpool. They never bottled it against Southampton. They played brilliant in there, and they was the better teams.
But the thing is,
that's not an idea of bottling it.
Okay.
Not.
First of all,
how is that bottle?
All right. Well. I will just mute people. All right, I have the control with that.
I
have the power.
All right, I would. Yeah, but people just, I'm getting in, and all people just doing is going, yeah, and they're going to run. All right, let's go. I don't agree with everything you said there, Steve, because I think that there's things you said there which are potentially would be classed as what people would say is a bottle and a crumble. And I don't think that was the situation. I don't think we had the squad. Because how can you say we had the squad when as soon as a player's injured, your drop-off is nowhere near as good as that level?
Yeah, so, but I never said we didn't have the squad.
No, but I'm saying we haven't had the squad.
Oh, right.
That's what I'm saying. I'm saying Arsenal did not have the squad to win this Premier League. Arsenal have a first 13, 14 that is on their day, at their best, capable of taking on anyone. Maybe not Man City, but taking on anyone. But that ain't how you run a team. That's not how a team defies itself or wins the league or wins trophies with your best at every playing at your best, because that's not how it is. Liverpool didn't win the league because at every game they played their best. There certain games they had resilience. They battled it out to the end, and they were stern in those games. They were steely in those games. That's what you got to be. Arsenal just didn't have that, as well as the squad depth. They just didn't. So,
I said that though, didn't I said that.
I mean, not in that way, because we came out people saying that you're basically spelled out that Arsenal would crumble. And
no, that was their definition of it. But
I do think.
Go and have a look on Google.
Wait. I do think that the majority.
Meaning.
Am I going to be able to speak or what? Yes, I do think that majority of people's arguments against this angled at Arsenal is purely banter. Like how are you watching a team who you regarded as not even going to get in the top 4 and potentially not going to get in the top 6, that has a season so good that halfway through you're talking about them as title challengers, yeah, and then you're saying that they bottled the league. It doesn't even equate in the same conversation. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. You can't have a team that you said is going to not even get in the top 6 at the start of the season. Then by the end, you're saying they bottled the league. They just didn't. If you're saying at the start of the season they didn't have the squad to get to be even in that top 6 conversation, then how can you say they've got the squad at the end of the season to win the league? You can't. You simply can't. You can't.
You know what you can't do, though, and we had this conversation, I had this conversation a few weeks ago. When you're at that level and you're competing with another team, you've got to make sure that is the team. At the very least you do is you're sharing the points during the course of the season.
Yeah.
But Liverpool have not won at the Etihad since 2015.
But I bet they've drawn a few.
Which seems an amazing stat. But if you think of the number of times that Liverpool have missed out on the Premier League by a point, 2 points at the most during the same period, if they'd have won at the Etihad, or not,
Kevin, you're killing me.
In some cases, not even allowed.
Bro's lived this for years.
That's just a quick point, sir. Just a quick point.
Hold on a minute, Steve. Just 1 minute. We got 6 points off Arsenal this season, home and away. Even if Arsenal had won their home game, we would, at this current point now, we would have 3 points less and they would have 3 points more. So it is as critical as that when the league is so tight at the top. You cannot afford to drop 6 points to your closest contender.
Yeah. I don't think they thought they'd lost the league though when you beat us 4-1.
No, I'm not saying that. Even
that's what I'm saying. But a lot of people are saying that's where we bottled it. They're saying, "Well, you bottled it."
That's where they had the reality check.
You just said that that's where they come off and felt like they couldn't win the league, Steve. The Man City game.
I'd like to say something.
Did you hear what I said about when I said about how we played against Southampton, how we played against Newcastle? So where did I say that?
I'd like to say something at some point when you're ready, guys.
How did I say that? I never said that. I said
100% did, mate.
You did. That's
said
when they had the reality check.
Did I not
against
say?
Man City.
Did I not say? Yeah, but you can have a reality check and it can be in the back of your mind and still go on and think that you've still got a chance, but knowing in the back of the mind that City are the best. But it got to a point where it got too much. Is that not? Has everybody played football before? Is that not? Because I know when I've played, it's been like
we have.
Well, that's how it is, isn't it?
But
it's obvious.
Yeah, but I don't agree with your definition. That's all.
So we bottled it and crumbled then.
Look, man, you've got to accept. Look, I will say, I'll be the first to say when Man United bottle it. Yeah, Man United bottled it against Sevilla this season with 2-0 up. We bottled it. We should be winning. City of the last few years in the Champions League,
and the rest.
Whatever. Any game, any other game, I'll agree with you. Any of them. I'm not against
Liverpool,
Man United. I'm not backing United when we bottle it. Yeah, cool. I'm
Serial
talking
bottlers.
now. Okay, cool. Man City also crumbled in the Champions League in the late stages. We all know that. Man United crumble all the time. Liverpool have crumbled this season with their performances. But the reality is don't put Arsenal glasses on. The reality is Arsenal were in a favourable position. They've been playing great football all season. They were top of the league with 10 games to go with 8 points ahead. When you look at that and you look at your remaining games, I'm sure the players will be looking at it going, we can win these games. Okay, the Arsenal game, probably could lose that. No problem, because if we lose that, we're still ahead. Liverpool game, okay, we draw 2-2. Liverpool at Anfield, 2-2 is a great result. No problem. But the other games, Forest, we can beat them. Brighton.
The first one for me.
It's gone by
What I'm saying, because everyone's talking, I haven't even said anything. So my point is, all these games where you should win. You all feel like you're going to win them games. There's no way you're going to go into them games and think we're not going to beat Southampton. We're not going to beat West Ham. You're going to think that you're going to beat them because you're playing superior football.
But the best team don't always win football matches, Nave, do
You're
they?
8 points ahead. And now, I said to you, it's no shame losing to City. It's no shame losing to City if they overtake you. But if you lot concede loads of points and the gap so big by the end of the season, that's going to be called a crumble. I would not call it a crumble. If you won the games you expected to win and you just lost against City and lost one extra game, then that would have been okay, no problem. But you've lost too many games now.
So, Nate, would you say that one question, just one question?
You've gone from 8 points ahead to so many behind in such a short space of time. That's a crumble. There's no other
one question. Just one question. Would you say that Arsenal have disintegrated since the Man City game?
No.
Well, it's not crumbled then, is it? Because crumble means disintegrate.
I didn't say they've disintegrated since that Man City game.
That's what crumble means.
No, it doesn't.
He's coming out of the Oxford
the Man City game.
No.
How does that mean crumble?
Is that a bet on it? Yeah.
Since the City game,
your
lose all your games. You've lost games you should be winning.
Your wording's wrong.
You've
crumbled. The other days.
Arsenal have crumbled.
Okay. So you're saying they disintegrated.
In them games that were left, are you telling me that if I ask you how many points you're going to get from them games, what would you have said? Nowhere near what they're on now. Nowhere near.
But you don't
it's not even a fight anymore. There's not even 10 games to go.
I think lads,
before the end of the season.
It still don't mean bottle it and crumble in them games. In guts.
It's
better. If it makes you feel any better, Steve, in 2011-12 when we won the Premier League, United dropped an 8-point lead in 6 games. So
exactly, that's a crumble.
You've got to look at it.
You've got to crumble. I think it's difficult. You have to accept it when it happens. You can't lie.
So the Invincibles, right? The Invincibles drew 5 games in the last 8.
Have we got?
Did they crumble?
I think listen,
Farrell.
The difficulty is because we've got to assess this. The mentality around it has completely changed. City and Liverpool's success in part has completely changed how we look at this mentally. You look at, Kevin was talking rightly so, talking about the games where, Liverpool haven't won at the Etihad, and you're looking at those games and you're thinking, if you do that, decides the title. When Alex Ferguson was around, we weren't really talking about that in the same respect of, if you don't win at the Etihad or if you drop points at Liverpool, that's it, the title's decided. The mentality around this has completely changed. It's completely changed. So how we view bottlers, it's finer margins now. Obviously, again, we can look at the league table and say, well, City are ahead by. To be honest, I don't know how much it is by this point. Is it double figures?
6 points.
6 points. Yeah. So, but realistically, we are talking. I mean, it's mad that we're talking about it, but we're here saying, if you don't win at the Etihad, if you don't win at Anfield, that's it. The title's it's completely different. So how we judge the mentality around this has to change with it.
Yeah,
It's 7
I
points
agree.
behind.
I tell you what, we've had a good pop at
But
City
look-
and Arsenal tonight for finishing first and runners up. You know what I
Sorry,
mean?
I don't want to make it sound all bad. Yeah, I'm only kind of saying it like this because I don't understand why Steve won't just accept that it was a crumble. But
Your
Man City
wording's
have still
wrong,
done-
Nate.
Look,
Your wording's
Arsenal have still
wrong.
done a great job. Arsenal have still done an amazing job this season, but it's inexperience that have made them lose in this point, and they'll be stronger for it.
Okay,
next year. But it's still a crumble.
Okay,
That's the whole
Nath.
point.
Okay, Nath. But you
So
have
you're
to.
disintegrated.
But please.
Keep saying
But
it's not a
Nath,
record.
but we can't keep saying the same thing, Nath. But you have to accept, that if you're by your very definition of saying a crumble, it's massively disparaging to a team that came eighth, and fifth. And is now fighting for a Premier League trophy. So you have to understand, from an Arsenal fan's point of view, why they would be defending it in that way.
Yeah, I understand.
There has to be. We can drop one-liners all day long. We can drop one-liners all day long. But there has to be an element of understanding with that. That's what I'm saying. I'm saying you're saying no, because the reason why Nathan's saying he's going on because Steve won't accept it, and Steve won't accept it because Nathan's going on. But you've got to both understand each other's where you both each other coming from.
But from your
Do you see what I'm
position,
saying?
you were okay. But that's from the start of the season. We're talking about from the position where you were and from what you've been doing this whole season. You lot have been playing superior football.
Yes, and Arsenal's decline came after the World Cup. It weren't in 10 games. Yes. However, Arsenal didn't decline in the last 10 games. It's like an analogy of when you pull a piece of thread out of a t-shirt, the structure's gone. Slowly it's coming undone. Okay. And eventually it will fall apart. That's what happened to Arsenal. Arsenal came back from the World Cup. And Arsenal fans will say, this is not the same Arsenal. There's slightly this and that. But because results were still coming, you ignore that. You can just you can even go and look at the scores and you'll see a difference between in the first half of the season Arsenal winning 1-0, 2-0, 3-0, 3-1. So the second half of the season it's 3-4-3s, 3-2s. It's different.
Are you saying the team's not playing as well, or are you saying the team's tired? What are you saying?
I'm saying the team was not playing as well. I'm saying
that's football. That's football. Yeah. That's the same as Liverpool. They played the same 11 pretty much the whole season.
But on the flip side, you've got Man City who've done the opposite, who finished the season on 14 games on winning streak. So
but that's my point.
What is it? Football one way and not the other. What I'm saying is Arsenal didn't have the squad. Arsenal did not have the next season. They might have the squad. They should. They should be bringing better players in those positions that the drop off is too much. That's right wing, central midfield, and probably a right back. Like they do not have the
why
squad.
They crumbled. Then you're saying that's the reason why they crumbled.
So why do you keep saying crumbled?
No, there's more. I'm not.
No, is that the reason why they crumbled? Or
there's more factors. There's more factors than what is being pointed out at the moment, which is Arsenal's mentality in that last amount of games. The pressure got to him. That's too black and white. It's too. That's what I'm saying. It's doused in banter. It's not.
I'm not even bantering, you know.
But Nate, it doesn't. No, but that is the language that's going around at the moment. There's nothing to do with it's this, it's that. All it is you crumbled with the last 10 games because you couldn't handle the pressure of Man City. I don't think that's the case. I don't think it's the case.
Okay,
I don't think that's the case.
You got to pressure time in the season and you couldn't stay up there. And that's what you call crumbling. You should win the games. The games you should have won, you didn't.
Yeah, but my point is we didn't have the squad. No, but if you've got
Saliba went down, Saka's form went out the window.
And Saka's foot. Yeah, but why does form go out the window
at the right time?
So what do you do when you have someone's out of form? You bring in another player, but if your player from Saka is Reece Nelson, then how's that the same comparison? I'm talking. I will say yes. There were moments in this season where the pressure got to him. I'm not denying that. We're talking about 20-year-old kids that was running our front line. Yeah, yes. Right, but you are saying the sole reason why we didn't continue with the league is because we crumbled under pressure. That's not the case. We didn't have the squad.
We didn't have the squad away from home.
That game was over.
It was gone.
This is what I'm saying. The Nottingham Forest game, is not even in this argument. The Nottingham Forest game is not even in this argument. Where's the pressure on Sunday? Where's that pressure on Saturday? What, to stop Man City from winning the league for 24 hours? That's not pressure. That's not pressure.
There was pressure, and then it's all gone because it's gone.
How is that pressure? There was no pressure in that game. Arsenal didn't turn up in that game. Brighton, yes, you can say there's pressure in that game. West Ham, Southampton, you can say there's pressure in that. There was no pressure on Saturday. That game was a non-starter. Arsenal did not turn up.
Right. From the minute Arsenal lost against City,
yeah,
you were still above them. Yeah, and you could have still went on to win the league without having to play them ever again and just win the games that you're supposed to win, right? Or wrong? You could have still won the league without, after that loss, you could have still won the league because you still had the space. You would have had been 1 point ahead of them, and you would not be. And if you won your remaining games, as you had been doing all season, you'd have won the league. But I even said it's not even a crumble if you lose one game out of them games where, you know, you could obviously lose a game or even two, and then they come ahead of you and they win it because that will be just City being too strong. But then what did I say before? I said, if they drop even more points and it's not even a race towards the end, that's a crumble because they've lost far too many games. They should not have fell off that much. It should be still respectable, tight, because you were ahead by so much and it was looking favourable for Arsenal to win the league. When it gets tough, we all know, from January onwards, you have to be able to handle that pressure. The pressure came, and I was like to see how they handled it, and they didn't. But it's not nothing. There's no shame in crumbling at the end because every team that gets to that stage in the first time in their lives, in their careers, that's what happens. It happens a lot. And then they learn from it the next year, and they don't get hurt by it.
All right, cool. But if there's no shame in it, why is everyone acting like Arsenal should be ashamed of the way they finished the league then?
They shouldn't.
But they are. But even the way you say it,
just upset because Steve keeps saying no, it's not.
Okay, but even forget Steve.
I would say it straight away.
Forget Steve. Even the way you say it, even if I'm talking about Arsenal in a way, there's a smug smile on your face because it's a full process of this and that. No, but this is what I'm saying, and that is the mood of the moment when it comes to Arsenal.
So
it's not about Arsenal had a great season, but they crumbled. Arsenal had a great season, but they crumbled. They need to do this, they need to do that. It's Arsenal bottled, and that is all that comes out.
Did we crumble against Man City in that game?
No, you didn't. No.
Did we crumble against Liverpool?
No.
Did we crumble against Southampton when we come back from 3-1 down?
Did you crumble against Southampton? You should have won that game.
Did we crumble?
Should have won that game.
But you didn't crumble. You didn't crumble.
Right, so I'll tell you what, we're running out of games here, Nath. Right?
No, I said you don't crumble in one game. You crumble in
West Ham. Did we crumble in that game? Did we crumble when we went 2-0 up and give away?
I just told you. I'm just explaining to you now. It's not about any one game.
So we haven't crumbled yet.
It's the remaining
when did we
games.
crumble?
Okay, did that game matter? Did you need to win that game to stay ahead?
Yes.
Did you need to win that game? Were you the favourites?
Yes, but you just said it's not a crumble.
Did you draw?
You just said we never
crumbled.
crumbled. You just said we never crumbled.
I just said to you, game by game, you can't. Not each game you crumble. It's the whole thing. It's the batch of games at a time when it's heated up. You need to win 3 points, and you don't. Because I tell you firsthand, when you're playing in games where you need to win, you play different. You do. You don't get to play your natural game. It's like the start of the season. Them games, you feel kind of free.
All right, well, let's go around the panel. Let's go around the panel.
No. We're not going around the panel. I've got the show. No. I've got the mic. I run this show. Sorry, we're not going around. No, we're not going around the panel to ask whether Arsenal crumbled.
We know what the answer will be.
We're not going around the panel because I've got one more question, and it's not on Arsenal. It's not on. It's on Manchester City and the FA Cup final.
You best be charging for this, kid. You best be charging tickets for this, mate. You know what I mean? Like,
of course.
Quality
It's a bit box office, hasn't it, lads?
What a show! What a show! All right. Kevin, Man United, Man City final of the FA Cup. A week later, Champions League. Is this the time where they win the treble?
Come on, City.
You're muted. After all that, you're muted.
Unmute yourself, Kev.
Sorry, I said I hope so.
After all that.
There was a period of time earlier on.
An anticlimax, that Kev. That was an anticlimax.
There was a period of time earlier on this season, not too long ago, after Manchester United won the League Cup. Nobody was talking about City winning the treble. Everybody was talking about United winning the quadruple. Yeah. And Ten Hag, according to Robbie Savage, was the best coach in world football. He might be at some point, to be fair, but he's certainly not yet. But the fact that we've won the Premier League now, and yesterday the team that Pep put out against Chelsea, 9 changes from the team that beat Real Madrid, at least is going to allow him to rotate a little bit the teams for that game yesterday, for the Brighton game, and for the game against Brentford at the weekend. There'll be some rotation still. He will still play. Some of the big wigs who didn't play yesterday will get some time against Brighton, and will get some time against Brentford, just to keep them fluid, just to keep them mentally aware of what they need to do. And actually, one of the advantages of playing in the FA Cup final this year before the Champions League final the following week is the last time 2 years ago, when we played in the Champions League final, between the last game of the Premier League season and the Champions League final, it was a 2-week break. And actually, and Nathan, you'll probably agree with this, that doesn't help footballers. I know that supporters think, oh, well, I've got 2 weeks to rest.
Well rested.
Believe me, they'd rather play Saturday, Wednesday. So the fact that we've got a game, and a very competitive game it's going to be, because, listen, we are, because we've won the Premier League, we are the best team in England. But Manchester United are slowly but surely turning themselves into a team that has belief, which is the most important thing. And I think Ten Hag is a good coach. He's not on the Pep level yet, but he has worked with Pep, so I think he knows what he needs to do. That game against Manchester United, for me, in an odd way, is absolutely the game that we want to be playing the week before the Champions League final. It's going to be blood and thunder. It's going to be competitive. There's going to be no half measures. And both sides are going to want to win for obvious reasons. United are going to want to win because it's a derby, and they're going to want to win the FA Cup, and they're going to want to stop City from winning the treble. City are going to want to win because it's the derby and it's the FA Cup, and hopefully they'll be looking at it because it's the second leg of the treble, hopefully. So 3 weeks ago, I probably would have said to you, I'd rather have been playing Brighton in the FA Cup final. Now, I'm glad we're playing Manchester United because it's going to be a more competitive game, and that is really going to be the sort of game we need to get ourselves ready for the Champions League final the following week. Do I think we can do it? I absolutely do think we can do it, yeah.
All right, Garth, you're going to stop Manchester City?
If we don't, then they've won the treble. I can't see them in the Champions League final. I really can't. It's the FA Cup final. I've seen many weirder things happen. I mean, obviously Wigan beat Man City 10 years ago. Is it 10 years ago this year? Yeah. So it does happen that the weaker team wins. I hate to call us underdogs because we're not really. We've got a massive team. We've got a good squad, but Man City are just so phenomenal. I just don't see how anyone stops them winning this treble apart from themselves. Like unless they mess up somewhere, you know what I mean? Give away a penalty to us, give away a penalty to Inter Milan. I just don't see how Pep's going to want so badly. He wants it. I can't see him faltering personally. So
I'm sure he's going to play Rodri this time.
Yeah. Fingers crossed I'm wrong. But yeah, Man City seem unstoppable at the moment. As much as I hate to say it, they seem unstoppable.
Nath, you've already said it earlier, but can you stop Man City from winning this treble?
It's going to sound a bit weird, but I think the one player that won't be playing, who brings us up to a level where we could cause an upset, I think he's going to be a major difference why we're not going to be in the races for it. I think Martinez is such a massive player for us in terms of starting moves forward, making other players have space and seeing the danger and playing that ball. And actually, obviously, helping the defense as well. His timing and everything gives us that stage to move forward and try and take it to City. Without him in the side, I don't even see how we're gonna get past halfway line. Like seriously, it's gonna be tough. Like that's the way I'm seeing it in my head. Obviously, my heart says I want us to win. I want us to go out there and hopefully put a fight up and hopefully get the first goal. And maybe something can happen. They miss chances, but reality is they're playing such high level of football. They're gonna keep the ball pretty much the whole game, and we're not gonna be able to counter the way we want to counter. I've watched us against all these other sides that are nowhere near City's level. We struggle to beat them sides. So end of the day, the only thing I'm relying on is
VAR.
It's VAR, number one. Number two, the fact that it's a derby. That's it. It's just a derby, and you can say, oh, it's a derby, anything can happen. But it's easy to say that. Reality is, I'm a United supporter, and I'm not very, confident. I'm not confident at all, to be fair. So I see us getting battered. But hopefully,
you could have just left it there. No,
you
can give a score picture in a minute. Like,
I'm just being real. I'm real. I don't get past Man United. I've got to say what I think. So I'm not like some people.
On that note, you're such a wind-up, Nate. On that note, that is all I have time for. What a show this was. It had everything.
I think.
It had everything. I'm going to watch it back myself. All right. Thank you for everyone who's joined us tonight. What a show.
Give him the round up. Give him the round up.
Let's give him the main spot. Let's give him the main spot. Well done,
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Still giving nothing. I love it, mate.
I'll have that next year.
Never. I've got to go on Empire of the Cop tomorrow, and they're gonna pull this up.
Oh no!
Right,
I'll never see daylight.
The show, you better be pressing that subscribe button because you're gonna get this every Monday at 8:00. If you are a regular, press that like and press that subscribe. Thank you for everyone who's joined us tonight. What a show it was! Peace out, people. Stay safe.
Take care
and wash your hands.